a sustained note is not necessarily rhythm, but the minute we put the space in between, we have rhythm. So if I sing da, there's really not rhythm there. I mean, it's just a sustained note. But if I go da, boo da, ba ba, boo da. So I feel like what happens with rhythm a lot of times is that people are very concerned about the sound, but they don't dance in the space as much as they should. And so if there's the space, they're not dealing with.
When notating rhythms, there are a few important things you should know and think about when you start writing, such as the duration of each individual pitch is indicated by symbols for sound, which we call notes, and symbols for silence, that is, rests. A note that occupies a whole measure of 4 beats is called a whole note. Its equivalent is the whole rest. A note that lasts for half of a measure, or 2 beats, this is called a half note. The equivalent rest, the half rest, sits on the 3rd line of the staff. And now a word about the stems. In general, if the note is on the middle line of the staff or above it, then the stem attached to the left side of the note head will point down. If the note is below the middle line, the stem on the right side of the note head will be pointing up. A note that lasts for 1/4 of a measure, or 1 beat, is called a quarter note, and the equivalent rest, the quarter rest, is drawn as shown. The 8th note lasts for 1/2 of the beat and has 1 flag. The 8th rest is drawn as shown. The 16th note lasts for 1/4 of a beat. It is drawn the same as the 8th note, but with 2 flags. The 16th rest also has 2 flags. Placed immediately after and parallel to a note head or a rest, a dot increases the value of the note or the rest by 1/2 of its normal duration. When writing music, it is very important to be extremely clear and organized so the musician reading the notes can understand what is intended. Comparing all of the note values, one can see that each smaller note value divides the previous note value by 2, so that 2 half notes or rests should occupy the same amount of space as 1 whole note or rest, and so on. Here are some general rules about beaming notes. In 4/4, 8th notes are beamed in groups of 2, 2 by 2, or 4, 4 by 4. 8th rests are not beamed. As a rule, use a single larger rest rather than a group of small rests. 8th and 16th notes may be beamed together with each other by the use of partial beams. In 6/8, 9/8, and 12/8, 8th notes are beamed in groups of 3 8th notes. Think about the beam angle. Here's an example of wrong beaming. Find the mistakes. Here are some general guidelines concerning the notation of rhythm. Guideline 1. It's usually better to use 1 note or rest of a longer duration than to tie together 2 or more smaller values. Guideline 2. Think of each 4/4 measure as being divided into 2 halves, beats 1 and 2 and beats 3 and 4. Complete each side of the measure, keeping the 3rd beat or the middle of the measure visible. Guideline 3. Only half notes, or larger, can be written over the imaginary line between beats 2 and 3, and only if they begin on the beat. The examples shown do not begin on the beat, and they're considered incorrect. The correct notation keeps the same durational values, but is written so as to show the 3rd beat. For the same reason that the middle of the bar is kept clear by the use of the tie, because the third beat must be visible, when writing smaller values, such as 16th notes, each beat must visually stand alone. The use of a tie between notes is a solution for clarity in notation. Now, try to fix the notation mistakes in the following exercise. Although you always have to be exact in the length of the notes being played, this is sometimes impossible to hear, especially when the note is being played by an instrument that can't let the note ring, for example, a wood block or a cowbell. Listen to the next exercise. There are several possibilities that are all equally right. If the same rhythm would be played by an instrument such as a piano, then it would be easier to notate the correct lengths of the note. To speed up the process of hearing and notating, it's very important to regularly tap rhythms. There are specific books and even apps that can help you master all sorts of rhythmic combinations. And always check what you've notated by tapping it. What rhythms and meters do you have to know for the test? You need to know all simple and compound meters and subdivisions down to 16th notes. Only straight rhythms, there will be no swing articulation on the test, and no odd meters such as 7/8 or 5/4.